I was always overshadowed by my stepmother and stepfather's favoritism toward my stepsister. Despite my hard work and achievement since I was 15, I have had to deal with my stepparents' blatant partiality toward my stepsister. My mom remarried Robert, 45 million, who owns his own accounting firm, and that's when it all began. Linda, 42F, his wife is a real estate agent and is always immaculately dressed in fashionable outfits with flawlessly manicured nails. Ashley, 19F, their daughter is the same age as myself. Almost immediately after we moved in together, the first indications of preferential treatment surfaced. Although there was plenty of room in our suburban Connecticut home for everyone, it soon became obvious that Ashley was the queen. My stepparents made sure Ashley stood out in every manner, even though other parents treat their kids the same way. Everything that came after was shaped by the day of the move. I was assigned the smaller room that faced the brick wall of the neighbor's house, and Ashley was given the larger bedroom with the bay window and window seat. Shopping excursions turned into a distressing reminder of my role within the family. Ashley would shop at high-end stores for designer clothing and new Nike sneakers, while I was told to check out Target's shelves. Robert gave me a $50 Old Navy gift card the first time this happened, and I recall standing in the mall watching Linda and Ashley vanish into Nordstrom. He said, "Get whatever you need," and turned to follow them. I will never forget the casual dismissal and the unambiguous message about my position in the family hierarchy. The way they treated us at family time was more painful than the tangible differences. Whenever Ashley talked about her day at supper, Linda and Robert would genuinely listen and lean in to offer follow-up questions. They would hardly look up from their plates when it was my turn to contribute, making merely infrequent MS or bringing up other topics I once attempted to spread the word about my victory in the school science fair. Linda cut me off before I could finish, reminding Ashley that her costume fitting for the dance recital was coming soon. It was especially annoying when it came to extracurricular activities. Ash participated in every activity in which she even remotely expressed interest, including private tennis instruction, dance classes, piano lessons, art workshops, and drama club. I asked to join the school's debate team, which only cost $100 to register, but Linda replied, "We need to be mindful of the budget." The following day, they enrolled Ashley in private swimming lessons that cost $200 per hour because she said she liked the water. Our communal restroom turned into yet another battlefield. Ashley's side was filled with pricey Sephora skincare and makeup, while I utilized cheap brands that I purchased with my stipend, which was a fourth of Ashley's. The towels were also different. I used the simple ones from the hall closet, but she had soft monogram pairs. She was so upset when I inadvertently used one of her face washes by accident that Linda had to create a lockable cabinet for Ashley's particular items. As high school went on, the gap between our intellectual abilities grew more noticeable. Ashley found it difficult to maintain a B average, whereas I kept straight as. However, their Greek tie-on to our accomplishments was oddly biased. Ashley's favorite Italian restaurant hosted a celebration dinner after she received a B+ on a history test after I was elected into the National Honor Society. Linda asked Ashley about her cheerleading practice without even looking at the letter. I could never do it justice, but family photos do. Ashley is the focal point of every photo, typically sporting a fresh, stylish outfit. I appear like an afterthought in my own family photographs, always in the background wearing whatever was on sale. Since Linda had just provided him with Ashley's dimensions and preferences for the shoot, the photographer really questioned whether I was a family friend. Assisting with our junior year photo session, holiday festivities turned into just another reminder of my position within the family. Ashley would always have more gifts than I had at Christmas, including high-end gadgets, designer clothing, and whatever else was in style at the time. Typically, I gave useful presents like socks, generic school supplies, or small value gift cards. Ashley received an iPhone and a MacBook Pro for Christmas last year. I received some clothing from a bargain retailer and a $50 Target gift card. Linda was already documenting Ashley's reaction to her new laptop when I attempted to thank them. Nevertheless, their treatment of our social lives was also in contrast. For their get-togethers, Linda would order pizzas and provide fancy refreshments, and Ashley was encouraged to have friends over at any time. I once requested permission to bring 2 friends over so we could study for our finals. "Just keep it down," Linda added, "and make sure they bring their own snacks. We're saving the good stuff for Ashley's cheerleading squad party tomorrow," she continued without taking her eyes off her phone. There is so much more to tell about how things developed from here, particularly with what transpired with my mom during all of this and how I ultimately received support from an unexpected source. I have been keeping notes on my phone about everything that has happened. If you would want to hear the rest of the story, please let me know. It becomes more challenging particularly when some family secrets are revealed and college preparations start in our junior year. Things really began to change. I applied for a job at a neighborhood coffee shop after deciding I needed some independence. Ashley reacted right away when I told them over supper as she gave Ashley another $100 cash for her weekend shopping. Linda nodded in agreement and said, "Oh my God, you're actually going to be a waitress? That's so common." The coffee shop turned into a haven for me. I had co-workers that genuinely recognized me and appreciated my contributions. For the first time after noticing my attention to detail, my manager Sarah swiftly promoted me from simple cleaning tasks to drink preparation. I became an expert at managing the morning rush. In 3 months, regular clients would especially wait in my line since they knew I would accurately recall their intricate requests. "You're a natural at this," Sarah would say, as she demonstrated new latte art techniques for me at home. However, Linda and Robert persisted in their apathy, save for when they could make fun of my work. "Careful with that plate, Ashley," Robert would say every night when they were eating. "Don't want you ending up as a waitress." They chuckled as I cleared the table in silence, presumably oblivious to the irony of my doing just what they were making fun of. Academically, I also had a sea change in my junior year. My lab reports were frequently cited as examples for the class by Mrs. Rodriguez in AP Chemistry. "Notice how Audrey structured her methodology," she would add while pointing to the projector showing my work. I felt Ashley's eyes searing into my back, but I continued to concentrate on the task at hand. "This is university-level precision." It felt good to get my efforts acknowledged after years of being unnoticed. Parent-teacher conferences were one very eye-opening experience. My performance was being evaluated by Mrs. Rodriguez. "Your daughter has a remarkable grasp of complex concepts. She's top of the class, and her lab work shows exceptional promise for a future in scientific research." Before I had a chance to respond, Linda asked, "Are you sure you're not favoring her? It seems like teachers always praise Audrey while ignoring Ashley's unique talents with every academic achievement." The strain at home increased. My step-family seemed to respond equally and oppositely to every A+ I brought home. They would swiftly brush over my accomplishments and turn their attention to praising Ashley's most recent participation award or the C+. She worked really hard for the night that altered everything, then arrived after finishing my calculus assignment. I was on my way to the kitchen for some water when I heard Linda and Robert conversing in their study. Normally I would have disregarded their late-night chatter, but Robert's remarks made me take notice. He said, "Sometimes I wonder if we made a mistake." In a somber voice, Linda said, "What do you mean having both of them? Ashley would have been enough. She's everything we could want in a daughter. But Audrey, she's just there. We would have been fine with just Ashley." The glass nearly fell out of my grasp. My heart wasn't as fortunate, but I managed to catch it in time. In that instant, everything became crystal clear. All of the years spent hoping for a change and striving to win their love suddenly felt so pointless. I wasn't wanted by them. They didn't. I was the extra load they wished they didn't have to bear. The undesired addition. Something changed within me after that night. I gave up trying to win their approval and gave my studies my whole attention. My thinking unclogged in unexpected ways when I wasn't under the continual pressure to win their approval. My already excellent marks took on a remarkable quality. I started getting perfect scores, but they didn't notice or care. Excellent analysis, Audrey, Mr. Peterson said one day in AP English as he held up my work about The Great Gatsby. Ashley tensed next to me, her heard pencil tapping angrily on her desk. "Class, this is exactly the kind of deep thinking I'm looking for. Your comparison of Gatsby's invented identity to modern social media personas is particularly insightful." From the corner of my eye I could see her face getting red, but I continued to look straight. In other classes similar scenes occurred. I was invited to a prominent essay competition in AP History. Because of my understanding of the Cold War, my experiment design in physics was chosen for the state science fair regardless of the subject. Ashley became more enraged the more the teachers complimented my efforts. When Mrs. Rodriguez invited me to coach other students in chemistry, that was the tipping point. She chuckled and remarked, "Your explanations are often clearer than mine. Would you consider leading some study sessions before the AP exam?" Ashley's voice came to me from downstairs that night. "Mom, the teachers are being mean to me. They always praise Audrey and make me look bad. They're doing it on purpose." With her high-end handbag swinging and her heels clicking on the linoleum flooring, Linda strode into school. The following day, she marched into Principal Williams' office where they summoned in Mrs. Rodriguez, and I observed from the corridor, "I want to know why your teachers are discriminating against my daughter," Linda pleaded. Mrs. Rodriguez pulled out our progress logs and placed them side by side while remaining composed and professional. "Here are both girls' records. Audrey consistently scores in the top percentile in all subjects, while Ashley—" "Are you saying my Ashley isn't intelligent?" Linda cut in, raising her voice. "Not at all. I'm merely pointing out Audrey's academic achievements." However, she was not persuaded by any amount of proof. I heard Linda explaining to Robert that day when she got home that the teachers were clearly biased against their precious Ashley, I had grown weary of begging for pocket money, and seeing Ashley receive hundreds of dollars for simply being alive. My job at the coffee shop was now my passport to independence, not just a haven. I opened a second bank account that neither Linda nor Robert knew about, and I began saving every dime I could. The tips from the regular customers went directly into that account, and they frequently increased them after they found out I was saving for college. However, even this minor triumph was not without opposition. Ashley and her friends would frequently leave their empty cups on the table, purposefully spilling liquids to make my job more difficult, and then loudly comment on how sad it was to see people stuck serving coffee. The message was clear: I wasn't even permitted to excel in a job that they viewed as beneath them. My co-workers noticed and began taking their directions instead. I don't want anything to do with you anymore. You're embarrassing with your tiny house and budget clothes. I've moved up in the world, Linda yelled in a heated phone conversation I had overheard years earlier. She had been speaking to her parents, my grandparents, whom I had never met because they weren't good enough for her new way of life. I sneaked into Linda's home office that evening while she and Ashley were out shopping again, this time for Ashley's pre-graduation wardrobe makeover. I located the location in the older part of town under DF4. Do not contact in her address book. I felt a mixture of fear and hope when I looked at that address. These were my grandparents. They might genuinely be interested in getting to know me and consider me more than just an unwelcome member of someone else's ideal family. After my shift at the cafe tomorrow, I've made the decision to go see them. I don't know what to anticipate, but I know I have to try. The address is just a few blocks from my workplace in a neighborhood Linda would likely deem below her. I've been missing the family link for years, but maybe, just maybe, I'll find it now after I meet them. I'll provide an update. I feel like this could be the start of something significant. I have a feeling that meeting my grandparents could completely alter my destiny, not just my current circumstances. First update: 2 weeks have passed since my last post, and I'm amazed at how much has changed. I was standing in front of a tiny blue house with a well-kept garden. After my shift at the cafe that day, every step I took up the path to my grandparents' house felt heavier than the one before, and my heart was racing. The well-kept grass was covered in lengthy shadows from the late afternoon sun. The door opened when I held up my hand to knock, revealing my grandparents, an elderly couple. The man sported wire-rimmed glasses and a kind smile, and the woman, dressed in a flowered apron, had her grey hair pulled back in a tidy bun. When I said hello, I'm Audrey Matthews, I think you're my grandparents. They gave me a perplexed look. Their mouths fell open at the same time. My grandma said, "Oh my God, Frank," as she put her palm to her mouth. "It's really her. You look just like your mother did at your age." After they invited me in, I found myself seated in their comfortable living room, sipping tea from fine cups. As they stared at me intently, photographs from decades of family history that I was unaware of dotted the walls. Among them I saw photos of my mother in her teenage years, sporting the same bashful grin I had seen so many times in my own image. Numerous visits followed that initial one. I would spend hours with my grandparents, bringing them cookies and pastries from work, while pretending to be working extra shifts at the cafe. They truly cared about every aspect of my life and were excellent listeners. They questioned me in depth about what I was studying after I told them about my AP classes. They offered to help evaluate my essays when I brought up my college applications. Things at school kept getting more intense. Princeton sent me a large envelope one morning. I could hardly open it since my hands were shaking so much. Full academic scholarship. Before leaving for home, I hurried to show my grandparents, and their response was just what I had ever hoped for in a family. As Grandpa continued to remark, "I knew you had it in you, kiddo." Grandma began to cry when I eventually told Robert and Linda about Princeton. They responded just as I had anticipated. Distractedly, Linda remarked, "That's nice, dear," before turning to face Ashley. "Honey, have you decided which state school you're applying to?" My acceptance was entirely forgotten as Ashley sniffed and announced that she was taking a gap year to find herself through travel and self-discovery. Within minutes, they were talking about possible places for Ashley's gap year. After averting a potential catastrophe during a health inspection, I was promoted to shift supervisor at work. A little celebration was thrown for me by my co-workers, who signed a card and produced a homemade cake. It meant more to me than any praise I had ever received at home. When my boss Sarah called me aside and said, "Going places, kid, don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Everything changed once again. Yesterday, as usual, I went to my grandparents' house. After closing the cafe, they looked at each other during our chat as if they were nervous. "Audrey," Grandpa started after clearing his throat, "we need to tell you something." I was astounded by what they disclosed next. As it happens, they are not the humiliatingly impoverished relatives Linda had always talked about. They had put their meager resources in a number of software startups. After Mom severed their relationship, they decided to continue living simply in their comfortable home, even if those investments had paid off handsomely. Grandpa stated, "Your mother left us because she felt we were too poor, too beneath her," using a headshake. "The irony is we're probably wealthier than she is now. We just don't feel the Need to show it off, Grandma said. We've been waiting for the right moment to help you, and with graduation coming up this seems perfect. Everything they told me is still being processed by me. I have more to say, but I must exercise caution in what I do next. 2 weeks remain until graduation, and Linda has been hinting about a large family celebration for Ashley, of course, to celebrate Ashley's academic accomplishments. She has already reserved a classy restaurant and invited all of their friends after I graduate. He'll provide another update. My grandparents claimed they had something planned, and judging by their smiles, I can tell it will be something important. I have a feeling that this day will be remembered by everyone in the family. Second update: the graduation ceremony proceeded according to plan. My stepparents hardly gave a cheer when they mentioned my name as valedictorian. However, they cheered and yelled like if Ashley had just won an Olympic medal when she crossed the stage. Then the shocking news arrived. Linda virtually bounced in her seat when she said, "Girls, we have exciting news. We're celebrating graduation in Hawaii over breakfast the following morning." Despite everything, my heart briefly felt better, but I should have known better. You understand, right? Someone has to watch the house, and you have your job at the cafe, honey, Linda said to me, her voice brimming with phony pity. "We only got 3 tickets for us and Ashley." Ashley stirred her orange juice without even trying to disguise her smirk. "Don't worry, sis," she murmured, sounding overly kind. "I'll send you lots of pictures of me living my best life on the beach." I observed them loading their pricey bags into the taxi the following morning from our front door. Ashley turned around and gave a theatrical, enthusiastic wave. "I'll make sure to send you beautiful photos from Hawaii." With trembling hands, I took out my phone and dialed my grandparents as soon as the cab vanished around the corner. When I heard Grandma's voice, the tears I had been suppressing finally came out. They went to Hawaii without me. They just left me here like I'm nothing, I cried. Grandma said, "Oh sweetheart," in a gentle yet forceful voice, "come over right now. We're have our own graduation celebration." Still blotting away my tears, I pulled onto their street and drove to their house. At that moment, I spotted something out of the ordinary: a brand new Mercedes C-Class automobile shining in the summer sun parked in their driveway next to their small house. It appeared totally out of place. I strolled up to their front door and inquired, "Whose car is that?" Grandpa held up a set of keys and his eyes glowed. "Yours. Happy graduation, Audrey." I was certain I had misheard him, so I stood there with my mouth open. They clarified that they had been waiting for the ideal opportunity to prepare this surprise for weeks. We said celebrated with a lovely handmade graduation meal. While we spent the afternoon together, a banner that read "Congratulations, Graduate" was displayed throughout the dining room, and the table was arranged with their finest china. 2 weeks passed slowly. My phone would ring every night with a new alert: Ashley posing on various beaches, dining at fancy restaurants, or relaxing by infinity pools. The captions for each picture got more and more offensive: "Living my best life as someone serves coffee." The day of their return then arrived. I was in the living room looking out the window while fixing to read a book. I couldn't help but smile as I watched their expressions play out in slow motion. As the cab arrived, Mom was the first to notice. Ashley dropped her expensive beach bag on the concrete driveway after she stopped so suddenly that she was directly struck by her dad. Almost stumbled over them both when he was fumbling with their pricey matching luggage set. Linda's harsh, high-pitched voice echoed through the front glass. "What is that?" Her immaculately manicured finger was quivering a little as she pointed at the Mercedes as though it would bite her. I enjoyed every moment of their bewilderment as I walked slowly to the front door. They all turned to stare at me as if I were a ghost. When I stepped onto the porch with his face flushed from shock and the Hawaiian sun, Dad shouted, "Whose car is that?" as Ashley often did while flaunting her fancy purse straps. I twisted the keys around my finger. "Mine," I replied. Ashley, barking, laughed, but I could detect the doubt in her voice. "Yeah, right, like you could afford that on your waitress salary." With every word I could manage, I said, "Actually, it was a graduation gift from Grandma and Grandpa." Linda's cheeks lost color so quickly that I feared she may pass out. "What, you know," I replied with a smirk, "your parents, the ones you were too embarrassed to talk to because they were too poor. Those grandparents." I feared Dad could have whiplash because he turned to Linda so quickly. "Linda, call your parents right now." When Mom took out her phone, her hand trembled when my grandmother responded. She didn't even make an effort to be polite. She insisted, "Where did you get the money for that car?" Grandma's quiet, mildly amused voice could be heard over the phone. "Oh, hello to you too, dear. Enjoying your expensive vacation?" There was mayhem for the following few minutes. Everything would never be the same after family secrets were revealed. Third update: I had never been happier as I was during the final weeks of summer at my grandparents' place. Grandpa's humming as he read the newspaper, and the aroma of Grandma's coffee would greet me each morning. No feeling like an unwanted shadow, no fighting for attention, no walking on eggshells, just tranquility. It was bittersweet to move to Princeton. I bid my grandparents farewell with a hug and vowed to phone them every day. Before leaving in my Mercedes with everything I possessed, I felt as though I was crossing a line between my old and new lives on the drive to New Jersey. Just 10 minutes from university, my Grandparents had gotten me a lovely small apartment. It was nothing special, but it was far nicer than any dorm room. There were large windows, hardwood floors, and even a tiny balcony where I could study. Despite my objections, they persisted on paying the rent. However, I still desired some autonomy, so I took a part-time work at a nearby coffee shop. I didn't miss the irony, still serving coffee, but this time out of choice rather than obligation. I found myself making true friends for the first time in my life, and the majority of my co-workers were fellow students in the best way conceivable. The first week of classes was overwhelming. I was simply another freshman figuring things out, not the unwanted extra, without any ulterior motives or comparisons to others. My students asked me to study groups, and my lectures genuinely seemed interested in what I had to say. About a month into the semester, Grandma called one Sunday afternoon with some intriguing news. She remarked, "Your parents arrived at our door yesterday." A beat skipped in my chest. What were they seeking? As usual, Grandma remarked. Linda was all smiles and phony excuses as she inquired about our financial status and made a reference to Ashley's impending birthday. "Your father continued to scan the house, perhaps in an attempt to determine our wealth. How did you explain it to them?" Holding my breath, I asked. The line was joined by Grandpa's voice. "We informed them that we had already made a financial decision. Everything will go to you when we brought up the trust fund we've established for your graduate education." You ought to have seen Linda's expression. I could see their faces. What was their reaction to that? Grandma laughed and said, "Let's just say Linda's smile didn't look so genuine." After that, we requested that they not return. Additionally, Ashley had the audacity to send us a list of expensive cars that she would be open to receiving as a birthday present. Is it not unbelievable? I blocked all of their phone numbers and social media accounts that night, including Ashley's. I was prepared for the unexpected expressions of love and regret, as well as offers to start over as a family. However, I no longer required their type of family. Linda tried a fresh strategy. The next week, she sent a long letter after somehow obtaining my new address, likely by looking through my grandparents' mail. It was filled with justifications that they would love to be a real family once more, and that they never intended to hurt me. The PSS requests that I speak positively to my grandparents on Ashley's birthday was the most telling. After carrying the letter to my balcony, I ripped it into small fragments and allowed the wind to whisk them away. After that, I gave my grandparents a call and helped Grandma organize her garden for the upcoming spring. For an hour, real family feels like that. No comparisons, no stipulations, just love. I occasionally think about that young child who used to ask for her parents' affection as I sat in my constitutional law class taking notes and truly enjoying the intricacy of the subject matter. Not only would she find love, but she would also find respect, support, and the ability to be herself. I wish I could tell her that. Here, Emma, my roommate, has grown to be my best friend. I was almost adopted by her large devoted family in Massachusetts. They offered me to spend Thanksgiving break at their family's beach cottage last weekend. I almost started crying when Emma's mother gave me a hug and remarked, "There's always room for one more at our table." My study group most likely confirms our later meeting at the library when my phone softly buzzes in my pocket. Perhaps it's Jake, the adorable guy from my psychology class who persistently requests coffee. Thankfully not in my cafe. I used to work as a barista and my family situation is complex, but he doesn't care that we've been studying together lately. Now every is so normal, no drama, no incessant comparisons, no sense of inadequacy. It's just me, my education, my friends, and the bright future that lies ahead. I've begun researching law schools. For once I feel like I can dream as large as I want, and Grandpa believes I'd be a fantastic lawyer. There probably won't be any further updates from me. I've closed this chapter of my life and am prepared to start a new one, this time according to my own wishes. I've discovered that it's acceptable when the family you pick is superior to the one you were born into. I appreciate everyone who has followed my journey. You have no idea how much your support has meant. If you find yourself in a similar circumstance, keep in mind that you should not allow someone to make you feel inadequate. You will be loved for who you are by the right people. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.